Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Chats with the Chief, a Belonging Dialogue. I'm Duane Reynolds, your host and the founder and CEO of Just Health Collective. We are a professional services and advisory firm that is focused on helping healthcare organizations accelerate health equity and belonging. We're excited to have you here with us today. And as a reminder, please feel free to click the share icon at the bottom of your screen to share this important conversation within your network. We want to give everyone the opportunity to join in and benefit from hearing leaders who are going to be discussing health equity and belonging with me. Also, it's important to note that if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat at any point during the session, and we'll make sure to get to your questions with answers. So today's conversation is about creating a culture of belonging in a high-growth health tech company. 2020 has certainly shown us that we need to move beyond standard workplace statistics and instead focus on creating spaces of belonging and solving the issues of underrepresentation across industries. This has been a particular concern for the tech industry. Tech companies who acknowledge the problem, who commit to continuous improvement, act with intention, and use the power of data will ultimately have the greatest impact. And I'd like to share a quote with you that I recently read from the VP of Global Diversity at LinkedIn. Belonging isn't something any one of us creates for ourselves. It's the product of a shared commitment by all to create a space in which employees can be themselves fully and have the fullness honored and celebrated. Now I'd like to introduce you to today's guest. Bird Blitch is the CEO and co-founder of Patientco, the only vertically integrated payment technology company the only vertically integrated payment technology company that was founded specifically to rethink the patient payment experience in healthcare. Since Bird co-founded the company in 2009, Patientco has grown to become the healthcare industry's leading patient financial navigation technology that empowers patients with transparency, understanding, and control of every financial interaction in the healthcare ecosystem. Under Bird's leadership, Patientco was recently named Best in Class for patient financial engagement platforms. Today, the company works with some of the largest health systems across the US and has facilitated healthcare payments for millions of patients. So, Bird, welcome to Chats with the Chief.
Duane, it is great to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm well. It's good to see you as well. I am fully vaccinated and recently had my first trip post vaccination. So I'm super excited about being able to just get out and live a little bit more.
I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people will be hitting the road this weekend, and I'm fully vaccinated as well. Feels good. Feels good to go out and get some of that vitamin D sunshine and just feel free. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for being here with us. And I want to jump into the first question that I have for you. So I recently read an article in Inc.com about how you received your first big contract via an elevator pitch. So it seems like the patient payment experience is very personal to you. So how has your personal experience actually driven your goals for the future, including this idea of belonging?
That's a great question, and I do remember that story very well from the Inc. magazine article. If you really go way back in time with Patientco, we started this business after my wife went to the hospital, and she was pregnant. It was time to deliver, and we had a great clinical experience, but the financial experience was something to be desired, right? More of. I mean, we had 9 months to prepare for this child, our baby daughter that was delivered, and look, we had a great clinical experience. She was healthy. We were very thankful for that. Mother was fine through all that. My wife Anna, but the challenge really was trying to understand pre actually when we were in the hospital and afterwards, where all these costs and expenses were
Yeah.
and what they meant to me personally. It didn't exactly feel like I belonged after I had these great dialogues with doctors and clinicians,
Mhm.
but the financial experience was something that was to be desired. And when I think about Patientco and our real mission, Duane, I say this all the time. Look, health systems deserve better than the status quo. We build financial engagement technology that inspires trust between health systems and the patients that they serve. And if you're not inspiring trust, then the belonging piece starts to go by the wayside. So there was a real opportunity here. It was very personal to me, and it carried on as to where we are today from a Patientco perspective. We are, I guess we're 10 years in, and Patientco is facilitating billing and payments across all 50 states.
Yes.
And I think of it this way: almost 10% of the population in the US has had some form of interaction with Patientco technology, which is cool. It's hard to think about it from that sort of scale, how some personal experience, grew to this. And only, in this country can sometimes things like that happen. But it was deeply personal. And I started thinking, how can we personalize that experience so that the same great clinical conversations are reflected in the financial conversations? And how do we change healthcare for the better? So that was the way I approached it. That was my story and how we got into this whole thing in the first place.
Well, I appreciate that because I probably most people who are listening to us today have had some sort of experience with the healthcare system where, they had a bill that they weren't quite expecting. You get bill from the physician, from the radiologist, from the hospital, and it
Yeah.
can be pretty confusing. So the fact that you took your personal experience and made a company out of it that really is transforming how people ultimately experience the patient financial process is pretty awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about this connection between the financial experience and health equity. And we've talked a little bit about this in my work with your company. But how has Patient Co. worked to really remove financial barriers that sometimes can have an impact on a patient's access to care?
Well, I think there's just so many questions that come up on this side, and we've kind of buried them for years and years. So
Mhm.
even though we know they're there, we're numb to them being there, and the realization that they are there, that we can uncover those. I mean, we all are patients. Everyone listening today is a patient, in that, or has been a patient, and so understanding what your out-of-pocket costs are, understanding what coverage your insurance has, what a procedure might cost based on that coverage, how much your deductible has been met or unmet. I mean, these are very basic answers that everyone should have understanding in a very simple way that
Yes.
would empower them to seek the care that they want and should have. I mean, healthcare is such a personal thing to all of us, right? Your own health. If you're not feeling good, you're having a bad day, and so how do we strive to keep um, patients healthier? Well, again, just going back to these facts, healthcare deductibles that I mentioned earlier. I mean, they've increased over 110% in the last decade.
Mhm.
So just think about that. And so the fears of these costs prevent people from seeking care that they deserve. Those concerns are the number one reason why many patients don't seek care. I know we've all been in conversations and we say, oh, we might could put it off, or you hear someone say they could put it off. And that
Yes.
is certainly, that data has surfaced in the 2021 Patient Financial Experience Report from Patientco, which is details a lot of that. But back to the mission, we really believe that the trust should be there between health systems and the communities that they serve. Um, if you go into a health system, if I just pick one member of your audience, Duane,
Mhm.
and along with myself, and we hopped in an ambulance and went to a hospital, and we went through the ER doors together for the same thing. Let's just say it was a heart attack. They would treat us very different clinically based on our medical records,
Mm-hmm.
based on what things we are taking, our blood type, all these data points. They would send us off to treat us differently because we had unique care paths to help us get better faster. And so the point is, why can't we tailor experiences to people financially so that they can
Yeah.
access care better as well? And then just think about what we can do when patients are no longer hesitant to receive the care that they deserve. I think, entire communities can thrive, and you start seeing, like, that's the sort of stuff that gets me out of bed every single morning. It's not the fact that we're building software or we're a company. It's the fact that we can change healthcare using the data and some of these fundamental elements to allow people to experience healthcare in a very different way than they've ever been in the past. And it's just something we're so passionate here at Patientco, that I'm glad to be on this chat with you today, talking through it.
Well, I definitely can attest to the passion around this at Patientco, and I'll talk a little bit about some work we've done with your organization, where we actually came in and did
Yes.
a health equity and inclusion product audit, and we worked with your product development team and took a look at some of your current software, the apps, and just tried to look from the lens of patient from diverse demographics. And one of the things that we uncovered was there was an opportunity to translate the app into different languages so that folks, who don't speak English as a primary language have the opportunity to really understand, again, that experience, and are better able to perhaps make their payments as a result of understanding that. And part of what I think has to happen in healthcare is that at any point of interaction with the patient, whether it be technology or the clinician interaction or interaction with the front desk, that we have to really think about from the lens of inclusion and health equity to understand how we can best serve those patients.
Yes.
The reality is we have a lot of work to do with transforming our healthcare system, but it really starts with some very basic things that your company has totally committed to doing. And I must say, I really do appreciate that about Patientco, in addition to the work that you're doing internally to really create a culture for your employees that makes sense.
Um, yeah, it is so important, and there's so much opportunity, and your organization has been very helpful to us along that journey. To listen to new and different ideas from different perspectives has been key. And even if I think about some of the work that we've done together, um, yeah, if it's okay, I could share a couple takeaways that I feel
Yeah,
like we
please
had
do.
as a result.
Yeah, please do.
Um, So one, I think, look, since you mentioned this, I mean, here's a couple of other ones. You helped us think about, um, look, if I go back in time to early Patientco days, I can remember turning. I mean, look, I was in this earlier days, you're doing a little bit of everything, and I can remember being in Conshohocken, Ohio, and turning on a system there. And I sat after I'd kind of done some training, and I said, I'm going to sit in the waiting room and watch how patients interact as they start to come in to check in.
Mhm.
And what I was amazed at is that not just the diversity of patients that came through the door, the diversity of care challenges and problems, the diversity of opinions. And it hit me really hard that, we don't build software. We have to build software for everybody in our communities. And so this is something you've helped us a lot with, going through and finding a more diverse group of patients around, some of the feedback so that we can innovate differently around all the patients that we serve. because everybody deserves the best healthcare and everybody deserves the best experience. And the cool thing is with the data, and as you start to tailor payment options and helping people understand things differently, you can accomplish this.
Yes.
Like we can accomplish this. This is technology is really our friend here. And then I think also you helped us along the path of like accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think of accessibility, you on the web content accessibility guidelines, like if a patient is blind, we have to ensure that they can still navigate our payment portal with ease through tools such as screen readers. And speaking of screen readers, Duane, I think I am frozen, so I'm gonna log off here for 1 second and come right back. Okay.
Okay, no problem. So technology difficulties seems to be the way of our life these days. But Bert should be back with us momentarily. We had a great experience working with his organization and actually continue to do some work with them, really focus on their internal culture now. But it was a really cool experience to be able to work with their product team to really analyze both their current product and what their future roadmap was. And they started to incorporate some of those changes and recommendations into the software that they're developing. And
I'm
it
back.
really is, hey, glad you're back.
That was easy.
Yes, it
Sometimes
was. Yes,
technology
it
is not
was.
our friend, Duane. Sometimes
I
it's not our
know.
friend, but most of the time it is.
I said, we're living in this era where technology can really be a barrier when we're trying to do these live and virtual events. But we roll with the punches and keep going. So you were talking about the accessibility piece that we help your organization with. So I don't know if you want to expand on anything
Well,
else.
I just feel, like that's one small example, but what you don't realize when in healthcare, you are dealing with people who are sick, but you're also dealing with people who are coming in there on a recurring basis who that might, mean you have a disability, something that is continuing to require, you just don't get well. You have to continue to work on that disability. So if you think about the example I was using, like people who are suffering from some sort of blindness, right? To be able to help them through screen readers understand and interact. I mean, that's a really cool thing, and yet there's a lot of people out there that we're helping with that. If you think about 10% of the United States has had some sort of access to Patientco technology, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that we've been able to help through this one piece that you've helped open our eyes to. And there's many more examples like that as well.
Yeah, and that becomes a differentiator for your organization because the reality is, we are more focused on inclusion. We are more focused on eliminating health disparities and health equity. And so, organizations that can get ahead of this and really prepare for the continual demographic shift that we are having in our country are going to be that much further along to really helping patients be successful in achieving quality care and outcomes.
Yep. Yep.
So, I want to remind our audience if there's any questions that you have for myself or Bird, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We are happy to answer your questions. Um, and so, I have one more follow up question for you, Bird. What goals do you have for your organization that will encourage your employees to focus on sort of the we collectively instead of the me? Really trying to get towards a more high performance, high trust team environment.
Well, that is the key. In a great culture, I often say there's no interaction as a patient that doesn't go through some form of a patient co-in. That's what we call ourselves. That's happy, that's engaged and growing. Um, Whether it's how we built the technology, how we operate internally, and so you talk about the we. What is the quote? Good teams become great teams when the members trust each other, so that they surrender the me for the we.
Yes.
And that is a key towards a high trust, high performance team. We're all in this together. and you've got to really build a culture that is built from the ground floor up around these things. I heard this quote just yesterday. I thought it was a good one. Diversity is a fact, inclusion is an act, and that resonates with me. And the goal is to make progress each and every day, so that we can maintain our momentum with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so you hear our mission, right? We're trying to build something that's better. We believe health systems deserve something better than the status quo. But we're trying to build a culture that is better than the status quo, and be very intentional about our efforts to be diverse and inclusive. And it's something that is we do each and every day. One of our core values is improve each and every day.
Yeah.
So there are lots of opportunities for this if we listen and learn and act. A lot of that is through dialogue. We have company meetings where we talk about this. I've learned so much in just the some of these company meetings that we display, what we call some of our heroes that have very different backgrounds, and the history and what they've accomplished over the course of their life or career. We have 360 feedback sessions. We have quarterly check-ins. We have peer feedback sessions. Those are really key. And so you put all these together. These are ways that we can listen and learn, and then put those ideas to action. And that is our culture that is going to be unique to these ideas, that allow us to own it, and be held accountable and grow towards building something better. Because again, our health systems are here to serve their communities in the best way possible. And we are here to serve our health systems so that they may serve their communities in the best way possible. And I believe that the diversity of opinions that come to the forefront, you talk about product development as we're building product, those create better ideas, better solutions, so that we can win more and provide a better product for the market, which is what healthcare needs. So it's something that is deeply, rooted in Patientco culture, and it's something that we're trying to improve each and every day on, which again is one of our core values. And I have to say, thank you for, a lot of the counsel, a lot of the thoughts, a lot of the you just have opened our eyes and ears up to a lot of things. And that's what this is all about as well, is learning to take action, learning so that you can take action, and then being very intentional about that.
Well, I appreciate that. And I really do. I appreciate the vulnerability of your leadership team and of you to just explore and wade through topics that may at times be a bit uncomfortable for people, because we haven't had a foundation of having these types of conversations. But once you start to get in it, you begin to understand the strength and the value in creating these cultures of belonging, and then translating that to how you serve your customers. So definitely appreciate that. And it looks like we have one question that has come in. So the question is, how do you help other leaders to also see the value of investing in this type of work?
Well, I think you just nailed it. It's called vulnerability. There is some awkwardness around that. And I do think that's an area where, as the CEO, as the leader of this organization in this role, to be able to allow people to feel comfortable being uncomfortable, to allow those conversations to surface, so that we can understand. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Like, the diversity and difference of opinions are what makes us stronger.
Yeah.
And embracing that and understanding that is the key. But if you go back to diversity is a fact, inclusion is an act, then we have to act inclusively. And I really do think it starts at the bottom and it starts at the top, and perhaps even more, it starts with listening. And then you've got to hold leadership of accountable to that as well. And that's part of leading an organization too. We're not perfect by no means, but we have to We have some good days and we have some days that we need to improve.
Yeah.
But overall, I think we're moving up and to the right. And that is what the most important thing is. The momentum, the improvement around that is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. And I know your team has spent some time developing goals, not just within the HR function, thinking solely about employees, but goals related to each business area that are about health equity or belonging. And I think that's really important so that you translate this type of work across your different departments and it becomes a part of the fabric of who you are, versus feeling like this side item that you do. Uh,
Couldn't agree more. I mean, these are we have some major goals that we hold ourselves accountable to every year in our operational plan.
mhm.
Um, some of these goals for this year are tied to these efforts. And so they are on the operational plan because they require cross-department functionality and reaching across party lines to help us execute on these that ultimately help us get and grow towards our vision goal. And so that's a little more deeply into how we operate at Patientco. But some of those big goals are tied to this, and these are things that we are and always should be talking about in different committees and one-on-ones, so that they are built into the fabric of the organization as well.
Excellent. Well, Bird, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on today as my guest. I remain inspired by the work that your team is doing and how you've really been intentional about your efforts to create a space of belonging for your employees and your consumers. So,
Hey, Duane, thank you. I remember the first time we met, you challenged me on some things, and it was a great meeting, and I just appreciate you being who you are as well and helping us get better.
well, I thank you very much for that. I remember that meeting as well because it was over food and I love to eat. So it was a
You
great
and me
first
both.
meeting.
You and me both.
Yeah. It was a great first meeting that has really turned into a long term relationship, and that's really important and relevant for this type of work. So I want to share with the audience that if they're interested in learning more about Patientco and your platform, that they can visit patientco.com. And I also want to thank the audience for joining us today. And we would like to welcome you all back again in June for our next Chats with the Chief dialogue, where I'm going to be speaking with Tosan Boyo, who is the Senior Vice President of Hospital Operations at John Muir Health. So don't forget to also like Just Health Collective page on LinkedIn so you can stay up to date on future Chats with the Chief conversations. And once again, Bird, thank you so much for your time and energy and the commitment that you have to health equity and belonging.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.